What is good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to a super dope video. Today I got an awesome tutorial for an effect by one of my favorite magicians, Danny Ortiz. This is an effect from his Semi-Automatica book series. If you guys have not read those, they are incredible. They are easy, mostly self-working with a very basic sleight of hand. That's sort of the reason for the semi-automatic title, and they're just great. This is one of my favorite effects from those books called Imaginary Dice. It's a sort of cool trick where it's a dice trick with a deck of cards, but you're not using any dice at all. It's a dice inside the person's mind with some thought of numbers. It's sort of got an CAAN type effect to it, but it is awesome. I really love this effect. It's genius, simple, easy, anytime, anywhere. Totally impromptu, so one that I love and I'm sure you guys will love too. It's got some cool little psychology in it and some verbal sort of trickery or moments going on that are really cool. So I want to thank everyone who's here watching. Make sure to hit that like button down below if you'd like this, if you'd like to see more tutorials. And yeah, let's just get into it. Imaginary Dice by Danny Ortiz. So guys, for this effect, we're going to use a deck of cards shuffled by you, by the spectator, whoever, and we're going to need some dice. So I'm going to reach into my pocket here. We have a couple of dice. These dice are actually special because they're completely invisible. So I'll hand one die to spectator 1 and one to spectator 2. I want them to take those invisible die and place them inside their mind. Now, for the purposes of me not having anyone to pick random numbers, we'll use some real die just to create these random numbers, but in the real world you wouldn't have any random die, they would just exist in the spectator's mind. So spectator 1, if you were to roll your dice, for example, what number would you get? 2. So 2, and you could have got a 5 or a 6 or even a 10. Now I know what you're thinking, what do you mean a 10? A dice only has 6 sides. Well, here's the thing, your die, spectator 2, is actually very special. It is a 10-sided die. So I want you to roll your die inside your mind, don't say anything out loud, and land on any number and commit that number to memory. You've got one? Alright. Now, let's simulate that. So let's say they're thinking of this number right here. Now, what I'm going to do, you've shuffled these cards, but I'm going to go through the cards like this, and I just want you to think of the card. Just remember the card that's at the number you're thinking of. So if you thought of the number 2, I'm going to go through and you just remember the second card there as I go through, all right? So I'm going to go through and you just remember that card. So hopefully you now have a card in mind. Now the interesting thing is you really could be thinking of any one of these cards, but I do know a little something. I know your card's probably close to the top, so why don't we cut it a little bit deeper? I know you want to see more than that, so let's actually give it a shuffle as well. And even more, how about you cut the cards? Cut them wherever you want. Right there. Perfect. And we'll square that up. Now, you can see that all these cards are different, and of course, you're thinking of any one of these cards, right? They're all different, and you could be completely thinking of any one of these cards. I don't know which one it is. He doesn't know which one it is. Let's leave these cards here on the table, and I'll actually hand them to you. I won't touch the cards anymore. Now, you each rolled a number. The number you rolled, what was that? It was a 2, right? And the number you rolled for the first time, what is that number? A 4. So a 2 and a 4, if we add those together, we get 6. Now, there's no way anyone could have known the number you were just thinking of, and you're also just thinking of a card, and you could have rolled any number you want as well. So we take those numbers, 4, 2, we create 6, and you're just thinking of a card. I want you to deal down exactly 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. For the first time, what is the card you are just thinking of? 7 of clubs, the 7 of clubs. Alright guys, so I hope you love that effect. It is a really cool effect, sort of got a little mentalism feel to it, but it's really fun and it's got a nice little verbal sort of ploy that you use, and it's just a whole lot of fun. So first things first, you're going to need a couple of spectators for this. I always start this effect by having the deck shuffled, and if I have multiple spectators, I'll hand out a few packets so everyone can get involved. Now, the first thing that's important is the verbiage when you set up this trick. So first thing you say is, alright, I'm going to show you a card trick, but it's also a dice trick. So let me grab my dice here. I really like this ploy. You don't have to use it, but I think it's fun. And you go like this and you say, well, these dice are actually special. they're invisible. But I'm going to hand you each a die, and you pretend to hand each spectator an imaginary die. And then you say, and I want you to place those in your mind, right? Just take them and get them to mime it. It's kind of fun, but you get them to take those die and place them in their mind. So now they only exist in your mind. Now you turn to the first spectator and you say, for example, and this is key. You say, for example, if you were to roll this die, what number would you get? And they're going to obviously say a number between 1 and 6. Now this is the number that we are going to use as their number, but we want them to make it feel like this is just an example, okay? So that this isn't actually the number they've chosen, but later we're going to come back to it as if it were. And what that allows us to do is actually set up part of the effect before it feels like they really chose their number, right? So by the time we get back to it, we have this sort of nice false memory of them not really feeling like they made a decision on the number until after we're done touching the cards. So you say, for example, if you were to roll that dice, what number would you get? And let's say they say 3, right? They're going to say it out loud. They might, if they say, oh, do I tell you? Just say, yeah, just what number would you get, for example? They say 3. So you just store that number in the back of your mind. Right after they say 3, again, we're wanting this to feel like an example, so we immediately follow up with yes, or 5, or 6, or even 10. So how it sounds at speed is, for example, if you were to roll that dice, what number would you get? 3? Yeah, of course, or 5, or 6, or even 10. Now, why do we say or even 10? Because we're setting up a little bit for the second spectator to make it feel a bit more impressive, and you also have this nice sort of funny moment where they're like, what do you mean 10? And also subtly makes them feel later on like maybe they could have even chosen a number between 1 and 10. But, I like to pause and wait for someone to say, what do you mean 10? A dice only has 6 sides. But if you don't get that, you just turn to spectator 2 and you say, well, you might be thinking, why did I say 10? And that's because your die is special. It's actually 10-sided. So you can roll any number between 1 and 10. Now, I want you to roll your die, but only in your mind, right? And just get any number and just settle on that number and remember it. So now you let them do that. So now they're thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Let's say, for example, they're thinking of 7, but we don't know this. And this person over here is thinking of 3. And they've said it out loud, so we do know it, but they feel like it's just an example they gave. Pick up the cards and you demonstrate what's going to happen. You say, I'm going to go through the cards like this, and this is at spectator number 2. You say, I'm going to go through the cards like this, and I just want you to remember the card that's at the number you're thinking of. So if you're thinking of the number 2, I'm just going to go 1, 2. You're going to remember the second card, all right? It's very important that you illustrate that just so there's no confusion. Sometimes people think they're supposed to look for like the number they're thinking of. So in this case, they'd be looking for a 7 or something like that, but that's not the case. I remind them, I say, you shuffle. I'm just going to go through the cards like this. And let's say you're thinking of the number 3. You're just going to remember the third card as I go through like this, right? I usually use the number 2 as my example because it's really easy, it's quick. And then I give the deck a quick mix before I actually start, just so they don't see the same cards again and think that has anything to do with it. I also like the subtlety of turning my head while I do this, so it really feels like there's no way I even saw any of these cards. So now they're going to remember the 7th card, because in this case they're thinking of 7. So in your head, just count, make sure you go past 10. That's what I usually do, like 11 or 12, right? And if you're really worried, you can count out loud just to make sure they actually get the right card. But, as long as you go slow, I usually think it's nicer to not say the numbers out loud, right? So you're going through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is going to be the card of choice, the 6 of spades. 8, 9, 10. And I'll probably go a few more up to 11. So they're thinking of the 6 of spades, and then you immediately just throw those back on top, and I turn the deck face up and peel off the bottom cards and just throw them back on top, just to give a few quick, false shuffles that don't disturb that top packet, just to make it feel a little bit like, I'm not really paying attention. I can even take the cards and drop them for a second to make it feel hands off. Let's think about where this puts us. It's actually the easiest any card, any number now, because they're just thinking of a card, and the card they're thinking of is at the number they're thinking of, right? Because they're thinking of the number 7, so if we were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's right there. And this is kind of an interesting concept because it actually does feel a little bit deceptive, especially to a layman. Like, I don't know the number, I don't know the card, yet if they were to deal down, they'd find the card at the number, which, just like this, obviously might become easy to backtrack if they really think about it, but just for the moment, if you think about that, I don't know the number, I don't know the card, yet somehow the card is at the number. Which obviously, yes, it's because they just remembered the card that was at the number, but it's still kind of deceptive, and it's really interesting how it works. So we don't even need to know what number they're thinking of. Their card is already in that position. So indirectly, we know what number they're thinking of without knowing, which is really neat. So now we're going to obviously make this more deceptive by adding in the second person's number and making it a different number and making it much more difficult to backtrack. So what you do is you pick up the deck, or as you take the deck back, you say, now, you of course could be thinking of any one of these cards. So you're just going to spread to the bottom of the deck, and you're going to get a break over the number of cards that this person had said. So in our case, they said 3. So I'm just going to get a break over 3 cards. So I just push over and I say, look, you could have said any one of these cards. I visually identify 3 cards, and then I kind of clip those 3 cards with the thumb, clip that last card with the ring finger underneath, and I can angle this down a bit, and as I close, I reach my pinky in and get a pinky break above those 3 cards. So it just looks like this. Look, you're going to be thinking of any one of these 3 cards, and you get your break. Now we just need to get those 3 cards on top, and we've set the card they're just thinking of at the number that their 2 numbers added together equals. We just need to do a cut. So I'm holding my break and I say, you could be thinking of any one of those cards as I gather the deck together. That's what I say as I was spreading. And then I say, but I do know a little something. I know your card's probably somewhere near the top, so let's cut it deeper. And I just do a really quick cut because it's only a couple of cards, but it also kind of plays into the next moment, right? So I just cut a couple of cards, and then I pause for a second and I say, but that's probably not good enough. We can do it better. We can actually give these cards a shuffle. And now I'll just execute a false shuffle because we are exactly where we need to be. So just do a false shuffle of your choosing. So for me, I'm just going to do a truffle shuffle. So I do the truffle shuffle, and I haven't changed the order of the deck whatsoever. What you could do if you can't do the truffle shuffle is you take packets of cards and you flip them face up in sort of a staggered pattern like this. Boom. And then you can see them being shuffled by pushing them together. That is completely false. So you're just taking small packets off the top, putting them to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. But you're actually not changing the order of the cards at all, but it looks really convincing when you square everything up like that. You could simply turn the deck face up and do some shuffles like this. You could do where you pull off a block from the bottom, in jog, run, pick up at the in jog, run until you hit the in jog, and then throw on top. And that also doesn't disturb that block of cards. So again, picking up a block from the bottom, in jogging the first one, shuffling off, picking up underneath the in jog so you get a break, shuffling off the top until you arrive to the in jog and throw on top. So you do a few just false shuffles like that, and then the moment that I've added to this effect that wasn't in the original was one, that false shuffle, but also was this moment of a cut. I think it's really nice just from a methodological standpoint to have them cut the cards. So what I do is as I set the deck down, I just peek the bottom card. So 6 of hearts, I set it down and I have them cut the cards wherever they'd like, perfectly fairly. So now it also feels like they've done something, and when I say later that they've shuffled, referencing the shuffles at the beginning, I can also tie it into this cut moment now, right, that they actually handled the cards. Now I take it back and I say, look, your card now is completely lost. And all I do is I kind of gauge where they cut. If they've cut about near the middle, I can save a bit of time. If they've cut near the top, I can just save a bit of time by knowing about where they cut, but not really necessary. I'll just pick up the deck and I'm just looking for that key card, so the 6 of hearts. When I see it, I'll just spread and I'll just say, look, now we have no idea where that card is that you're thinking of. And I'll close onto it, getting a break on top of it this time, and just execute a turnover pass as I set the deck down. And once again, we're in the exact same order we've been for the whole time. Now, here's a great moment to do a bit of recapping. And I say, look, you each had a die, you each rolled it. You're just thinking of a number and you're just thinking of a card. And I say, what was the number you said again? So now here's the moment where we flip the frame. We make that example feel like the choice they made, right? So you bring up the die, you say, look, you could have chosen any number, you're thinking of any number, and what was the number you said again? And the only number they've ever said is the one they said at the beginning. So now they'll just say that number again, but it feels like kind of that's the number they're choosing, right? It almost feels like that's the number they were kind of thinking of this whole time that we never knew. But adding just that word again makes them, think about the number they've already said out loud, and they'll just say it. And once they say it, you just move on to the second spectator. And even if they have a little bit of a gripe with the way that they were just thought it was an example, they won't even have time to get that out. And it's really brilliant how this plays out in performance. You look at spectator one, you say, look, you're just thinking of a number, you're thinking of a card, you've never said them out loud, which is genuinely true. Turn to the other spectator and say, what was the number you said again? they'll say 3. I think, yeah, it was 3 in our case. So they'll say 3. You say, all right, so 3. And for the first time, what's the number you said? And they'll say 7. Now, if we take those two numbers that you each freely thought of and we put them together, we get 10, right? And then I say, look, and you're just thinking of a card. Think about this. You guys each shuffled the deck. It was mixed. You're thinking of a card. You each thought of a number. You never said them out loud. I have not touched the cards since you've said your number. I want you to deal down to the 10th card. Face up and then set that card aside. Don't look at it yet. So they'll go 1, 2, 3. So remember, those are the 3 cards we cut to the top. And now we're in the same position where we had them think of the card at number 7. So their card is going to be at number 7 because that's the card they remembered. But it's much more misconstrued now with all the shuffling and this, and it's a different number. It's 10 now. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they set aside 10. You can show them maybe all the cards are different. For the first time, what's the card you're just thinking of? They will say the 6 of spades, and we will have the 6 of spades and a miracle. So quickly again, you have the deck shuffled. You give each of the spectator an invisible die. You turn to the first spectator and you say, all right, I want you to imagine rolling that die. For example, what number do you get? They say 3. You say, perfect. Or 5, or 6, or even 10. You look at spectator 2 and you say, you know, what I mean by 10 is your die is actually special. It's a 10-sided die that can roll any number between 1 and 10. So I want you to just roll that in your head. Don't say it out loud and just settle on a number. You got one? Perfect. So I'm going to go through the cards like this, and I just want you to remember the card that's at your number. So if you had 2, for example, I go 1, 2. You just remember the second card, the 2 of diamonds, as I go through. All right? Easy? Perfect. Now I turn at them and I go through. Let's say they're thinking of 7 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're going to remember this card. I have my head turned away. I'm going slow so they can follow along. I don't say anything out loud, so 9 of diamonds. 8, 9, 10. I go a few past 10. Put those on top. Now, I'm going to spread through the cards, and I remember that this person said 3 at the beginning. So I'm going to spread through near the bottom. I'm going to say, look, you could be thinking of any one of these cards, and I just visually identify 3 cards and get a break above it. Now I say, but what I do know is your card is somewhere near the top, so let me cut it a bit deeper. But I know that's probably not good enough, so let me give it a shuffle as well. And I do a false shuffle here. I do like this, maybe I go like this. Boom, boom. Mix those together. And I say, here, and how about you cut the cards? So just in that moment, I glimpse the bottom card, King of Clubs in this case. Let's say they cut off a small packet, so now I know when they've cut that the card is going to be near the bottom. So I flip it over and I say, look, you could be thinking of any one of these cards, right? They're all different. I have no idea where your card is, what card you're thinking of, and I get a break above that bottom card, so I can just turn over, pass back to the exact same position, set the deck down, hand it to one of the spectators, and I say, so you're just thinking of a card, you're thinking of a number, you've never said it out loud. And what was the number you said again? 3. So you said 3, and for the first time, the number you were just thinking of, 7. So 3 and 7, if we add those together, we get 10. Now think about this, you could have said any card, any number, and you're just thinking of a card. I want you to deal down 10 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For the first time, what's the card you're thinking of? The 9 of diamonds. And we have the 9 of diamonds. All right, guys, so that is my take on Imaginary Dice by Danny Ortiz. I think it is a wonderful effect, super cool, a lot of fun. He has a nice little variation in the books that uses like a weighted die and stuff if you want to actually get some die involved, and it makes it more deceptive, and it's really, really neat. But I think this idea of the verbal deception is super neat and something that I love as, you know, a mentalism fan, and I think it's in the same vein as some mentalism techniques, so I think it's really cool. But this is a really fun any card any number one that I used to do a lot. It used to be one of my go-to any card any numbers, and it's really strong. You get great reactions if you really build it and properly sort of explain and make the audience understand why it's an amazing effect, why it's impossible, and it has that thought of element, which is really nice, makes it more relatable for an audience. So hope you guys enjoyed that, hope you got some value out of that video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this effect, and if you'd like to learn any more effects or get some work on your sleight of hand, your mentalism, anything like that, send me an email, rfsleight@gmail.com, and we can get a private lesson set up. With all that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.